If you've been watching this channel for any length of time, you most likely know about the various Trans Ams used in the series. Judging by the reaction to our past videos on the whereabouts of the Super Pursuit and convertible cars from Knight Rider's 4th season, you guys kinda like finding out, for better or for worse, the destiny of these Trans Ams used in the show, don't you? Well, by nearly all accounts, the show went through a few dozen cars during its 4 years on the air. But one thing we haven't really talked about: what happened to the original Kitt? The first, the OG. Did this car meet the fate of so many of the other screen-used Trans Ams, destroyed during filming or crushed afterwards? Or did it somehow manage to keep its molecular bonded shell intact and survive? Today, we're going to dig into the origins of the first Kitt, starting with the day it left the General Motors assembly plant. We'll reveal its changing role throughout the series and where it is today, if anywhere at all. Is it in a collection? Is it a part of your toaster? Stay tuned to find out. Be sure to check out our exclusive merch not found anywhere else, like our semi-restoration team apparel, along with our line of Garthwear, trademark pending, coffee mugs, t-shirts, and hoodies in a variety of colors to suit every taste. Your purchase directly supports this channel and helps us to continue bringing you awesome content. View the merch below or click the link in the description for our entire catalog. In the spring of 1982, writer, producer, and series creator Glenn A. Larson was finishing up the pilot script for a new series about a police officer who, after a near-death experience, is given a new face and a new identity and is paired with an indestructible, artificially intelligent car to fight criminals above the reach of the law. I know, if you're here watching this, I'm sure you know the basic plot of the series. Anyways, once the script was complete, Larson's next task was to sell the series to a network. Using that pilot script, Larson hand-picked certain scenes that he felt best represented his vision for the series and set about to film them for a sort of sizzle reel that he could take to the network, specifically NBC, to get them on board. But in order to do that, Larson needed his star car. Having already decided on the then all-new third-generation 1982 Pontiac Trans Am, Larson's next task was to secure 3 identical units so he could begin filming. He turned to Harker Wade, a producer on Larson's other series, The Fall Guy, for help. It was late March of 1982, and the 82 Trans Ams had already been available to the public since the previous November, and they proved to be quite popular. Would they be able to secure 3 identical examples of a car that was so popular that dealers couldn't even keep them in stock? But Harker Wade already had a plan. One morning after attending his weekly church service, Wade struck up a conversation with his friend and fellow parishioner, Eric Dahlquist. Dahlquist was the founder and president of the Vista Group, a product placement firm founded in 1975 who had contracts with a number of automotive manufacturers to have their vehicles placed in movies, TV shows, and special events. Wade talked to Dahlquist about needing 3 brand new 82 Trans Ams for a new television show, and Dahlquist set about to make that happen. Between phone calls to Bill Hoagland, Pontiac's new general manager at the time, and Jim Graham, Pontiac's sales promotion manager at the time, and some other creative maneuvers, a deal was struck to divert 3 identical black Trans Ams with gold trim from the dealer allocation pool to a product placement status. The entire deal had to be kept somewhat quiet, as the dealers that those cars were assigned to would not have been pleased to learn that they weren't getting these 3 cars. On the morning of Friday, April 2nd, 1982, the Vista Group received a mysterious phone call. "Be at the PMT lot at 4 p.m. today," the caller said. 3 black Trans Ams will be waiting there with the keys in them. Get in and drive them away. They are yours. Now, PMT was short for Pacific Motor Transport, the company that hauled new vehicles from the General Motors Van Nuys, California assembly plant to dealers across the country. So Harker Wade, along with Eric Dahlquist and Dahlquist's friend and Vista Group employee Chuck Koch, they picked up the 3 Trans Ams from the plant, with their VINs or vehicle identification numbers nearly sequential, and they drove them away. We say nearly sequential because the plant also built Firebirds intermixed with the Trans Ams. And in addition to that, some of the Trans Ams were not painted black. They were painted red, blue, white, whatever. So they needed 3 black Trans Ams. So the way those fell in the production sequence, there were some gaps. Okay, enough of that. On a bit of a side note, but still interesting nonetheless, there was another NBC show gearing up in the fall of 1982 called The Powers of Matthew Starr. Now, if you haven't heard of that, I don't blame you. It was a very short-lived series on NBC in the fall of '82. For 2 episodes of that series, the show needed an '82 Trans Am. These 2 identical red Trans Ams were also picked up by the Vista Group earlier that same day, April 2nd, 1982, and their VIN sequences were intermixed with the 3 Knight Rider cars. Neat, isn't it? Wonder where those cars are today. Now at this point, some of you might be questioning if this is an accurate representation of these events nearly 40 years ago. Well, we're here to tell you that yes, this actually did happen. We have spoken to all 3 of the major players, Eric Dahlquist, Chuck Koch, and Harker Wade, at length many times over the last decade. Unfortunately, our friend Eric Dahlquist died in 2016. However, since then, we have been the caretakers of the Vista Group's surviving archive, and we have found circumstantial evidence that backs up the stories that these 3 men have told us, both individually and collectively, since 2011. All right, circling back to the original topic of this video, the first kit. Well, how are we determining what the first kit really is, since all 3 were picked up at the same time? Do we go by the earliest VIN? The car's use in the series? Well, for the purpose of this analysis, let's go with both. By sheer coincidence, we believe, the car that kit designer Michael Chaffee installed his amazing dashboard in was also the car with the earliest VIN sequence out of the 3. So we will consider this the first kit. By the way, going by VIN sequence, out of those 3 initial cars, the second kit, a stunt car, was destroyed during filming of the show's first year. The third kit, a backup to the hero car in Season 1 and insert car in Season 2, still exists, and yep, we own it. This first kit was delivered to Michael Chaffee's studio, and he had 3 weeks to design, build, install, and test Kitt's dashboard. The other 2 Trans Ams went to car customizer John Ward's shop to have the exterior only converted. When Chaffee delivered the completed interior car to the studio, the exterior was still a completely stock Trans Am, right down to the gold trim along the bottom. Filming commenced on this 20-minute sizzle reel, and if you watch closely, you can see the original gold trim covered in black gaff tape and no taillight blackout on the car. Even a promotional shot from this time period showed the Chaffee interior, as evidenced by the overhead console, but with a stock 1982 Trans Am front bumper. NBC was shown this sizzle reel at the end of April 1982 and ordered it to series. Between then and July of '82, when the full pilot was set to film, this first kit had additional work done to it. The familiar kit-style front nose was added, and the car was repainted all black, no more gold trim. It was also during this hiatus that Chaffee's dashboard was completely disassembled, so molds could be taken of each piece to copy for other vehicles. This was all done in-house at Universal Studios. When the dash was reinstalled in the car, well, let's just say the level of care taken by the studio was not nearly as high as Chaffee and his team, and it showed. The voice box was not smoothed into the dash, the steering wheel now had a large mounting hole in the middle, and so on. Now, this kit would have two primary roles in Knight Rider's first season. First, it was the hero car, the one that was kept in pristine condition with working lights, finished consoles, etc. It was the one you mainly saw Hasselhoff getting in and out of. But it was also used as a primary insert car, meaning the car commonly used when they were filming out on the road. They would connect the car via a tow bar and a tow bar receiver to a camera truck. The camera truck would tow Kitt while the performers inside acted out their scenes. Throughout the course of Season 1, this original kit, the hero car, remained mostly unchanged, although visible wear could be seen on the interior consoles. Any close-up shots of Kitt's dash were taken using the insert dash, a mock-up that sat on a soundstage, as opposed to the dash that was actually in the car. So producers weren't worried about the wear in the actual car. After a brief summer hiatus, the show returned for its second season. During that hiatus, the hero car received some minor upgrades. Gone was Chaffee's original style front nose with the acrylic blackouts covering the turn signals, as those covers were proving to be a nuisance during filming, flapping in the wind or pulling up completely. The hero car also ditched Chaffee's low-hanging overhead console due to it being in the way during filming, and replaced it with a more form-fitting version. The plan was to film a handful of Season 2 episodes, specifically Return to Cadiz, Ring of Fire, Merchants of Death, Big Iron, and Brother's Keeper, and then take a 5.5-week break before heading to Las Vegas to film what would be the Season 2 premiere, Goliath. During this break, the original kit got a few additional upgrades. Chaffee's original dash-on-dash design was on its way out. For those of you wondering what that is, the dashboard that Chaffee originally designed had a top that only partially covered the stock Trans Am dashboard, as you can see here. Later in Season 1, we can see that this became a problem, with gaff tape added to try and cover the seam. The studio opted to replace it with a new design that covered the entire top of the stock Trans Am dashboard, giving it a much cleaner look. It was also during this break before filming Goliath that the hero car finally lost the original square blinky Kitt voice box and replaced it with the correct equalizer style. Yes, that's right. Even though Kitt's voice box got an upgrade way back in Season 1's Hearts of Stone, it was never replaced in the hero car until this point in filming. By the start of Season 2, this original Kitt, which, as we mentioned, had played dual roles in Season 1, both as the hero car and the insert car, was no longer being used as the insert car. And really, it was a smart move on the part of the studio because the show only had one hero car, and if anything happened to it, filming would have to shut down. It reduced the risk of something happening to it during scenes where it would have been towed when being used as an insert car. Alright, so now let's fast forward to the distant future of 1984. Knight Rider had just finished filming its second season, and plans were underway for Season 3. Those plans included a revamped hero car with a new dashboard. While you might think that the studio would simply upgrade the dash in the Season 2 hero car, that wasn't the case. Instead, they built the Season 3 hero car out of a completely different Trans Am. That's why you can spot both the original hero car and the new hero car together in a couple of early Season 3 episodes. Kitt vs. Car and Lost Night were the first two episodes filmed for Season 3, and the original hero car can be spotted in both episodes. In Kitt vs. Car, the original hero car is used extensively for a car. After these two episodes were filmed, the next one on the shooting schedule was Night in Disgrace, in which our original hero car was noticeably absent. In fact, it is the very first episode up to this point in the entire series where this car is not used. The car was absent because it was sent to George Barris's North Hollywood shop to be converted into the right-hand blind drive car. The studio wanted to build a stunt car that could be driven from the right-hand side, with the driver hidden in a special passenger seat that allowed it to appear that Kitt was driving himself. Moving the controls to the passenger side allowed Kitt to seemingly drive up to Michael to get in and drive away, all without cutting the shot. Pretty clever, huh? In fact, you can see them experimenting with this type of shot in the episode that debuts this new right-hand blind drive car, the Ice Bandits. Barris's workers started by removing the Hero car's dashboard, as it would now be in the way of the elaborate chain drive system that they would install in order for a new passenger side steering wheel to engage with the driver's side steering column via those chains and carefully placed sprockets. Special pedals were installed in the floorboard on the passenger side, connected via cables to their driver's side counterparts. A half dash, if you will, was installed that made it appear that this car still had its Knight Rider dash during drive-by scenes. Incidentally, when the Hero dash was removed from this car, it was actually installed in another car, the left-hand blind drive car. That's why you can spot the Season 1/2 style dash often throughout Season 3 and Season 4. That's the original Hero dash, just no longer in the Hero car. The newly christened right-hand blind drive car, the first and original Kitt again, went about filming Seasons 3 and 4. It only missed filming a handful of episodes: the aforementioned Night in Disgrace, Knights of the Fast Lane, Sky Night, Hills of Fire, Night Flight to Freedom, Fright Night, Night of the Rising Sun, and Voodoo Night, making this the most used Kitt car out of the entire fleet, appearing in 76 of the 84 episodes. The right-hand blind drive car maintained its Season 2 overhead and lower console for a time, but those were eventually removed as filming progressed. Alright, now let's jump ahead to early 1986. Knight Rider was canceled, and the studio was now left to figure out what to do with their fleet of Knight Rider cars. Well, for the majority of the fleet, the studio knew exactly what they had to do. The cars needed to be crushed. The cars destined for this fate were the product placement units, which, bound by a contractual obligation with Pontiac, had to be destroyed when the show ended. However, some of the cars in the fleet were studio-owned, thus excluding them from this arrangement. So, where would these cars end up? Enter Hollywood Productions, a company that worked with major studios to help promote their properties, specifically properties that were very car-centric. Think Knight Rider, Dukes of Hazzard, The A-Team, The Fall Guy. Throughout the early 80s, when these shows were still on the air, Hollywood Productions struck deals with these shows' respective studios to build replicas of these famous TV star cars to tour around the country. Do you remember Kitt showing up at your local mall or convention center around 83 or 84 or 85? That was Hollywood Productions' replica Kitt. As part of this deal, Hollywood Productions received original molds from the studio in order to build these replica kits. Specifically, they received the Chaffee-style dash-on-dash mold, a Season 2 lower and upper console mold, a Season 1 steering wheel mold, and a Season 2 style front nose mold, albeit slightly different without the turn signal indents. Anyways, as far as we can tell, about 6 replica tour cars were built for exhibition purposes. Some of those cars still exist today, the tour cars that is, but that's for another video. When Knight Rider ended in 1986, Hollywood Productions approached Universal Studios about purchasing the studio-owned, screen-used Kitt cars. A deal was made and the ownership was transferred. However, there was a small problem. Between the time that filming ended and Hollywood Productions bought the cars, many parts were taken from these cars while they languished on the studio lot. Fortunately, Hollywood Productions still had the molds that they received when they were building the tour cars. They cast new parts to replace all the missing pieces on these cars. So if you've ever questioned why any of the surviving Knight Rider cars have Season 1 dash-on-dash parts, for example, that's why. Hollywood Productions' new fleet of now screen-used Kitt cars toured very infrequently, and they subsequently sold off all but one of these cars, allowing fans, like us, to obtain originals. The only car they kept was, you guessed it, the original Kitt / original Hero car / right-hand blind drive car. This car sat proudly on display at the Cruise Automotive Museum in Auburn, Indiana for decades. In 2017, we had the honor of including it in our Picture Car Reunion, where we reunited 3 of the surviving Knight Rider cars. This original kit is no longer on display at the Cruise Museum, and we can't wait to share with you the next chapter of this truly special Knight Rider car, the first Kitt. What'd you think of that? What questions do you still have about this car? Leave them in the comments below and we'll answer them. Let us know what you thought of this video. Are there other specific vehicles from Knight Rider that you want us to do a deep dive into? Put them in the comments, we'll answer them. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
And now, while we listen to Joe's selection of Knight Rider music that we received directly from Don Peak himself, we'd like to thank these Patreon supporters. Look at you guys scrolling up the screen to my right. Wait a minute, how can you tell which side is my right since you can't see me because I'm not on camera? Oh well, you know what I mean. We're featuring these fine supporters at our Knight Rider Prop Restorer level. Thank you very much for your support. And for those of you at the Knight Rider History Hunter level, we're recognizing you right now in the description. Now, if you enjoyed seeing this golden nugget of Knight Rider history being rescued from obscurity, then please consider supporting us on Patreon. Your support would empower us to bring you even more of these historical nuggets. We are the Knight Rider Historians. Till next time, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.